Switching parties politically right after you win an election can be highly controversial in any country. It may seem unfair to your former party or your constituents, but it does happen in politics, and I think it should be allowed. People may not like that view, but I'm going to give it to you in this video when it comes down to the hard reality of politics. There's a left-wing and a right-wing conspiracy. It's called politics. People switch parties for all kinds of different reasons in politics. It can be for philosophy, it can be for electability, it can be personal reasons, it can be spite against the former party, it can be a change in philosophy, it can just come down to marketability to get elected or for them to get what they want in politics. It does happen, and unfortunately I think it basically has to be allowed in politics. It's called floor crossing in Canada. Switching parties is the term they use in the American political system. What I think it really boils down to in politics is basically this. Basically, you're voting for a name on a ballot when you vote for office in any nation. You're not just voting for a party, and that is the reality of it now in this world. It happens, and I think it should be allowed. In this video, I'm going to talk about my personal experience in politics and in general from a political science point of view of why I think it needs to be allowed and why I think special elections on this or by-elections on this are largely a bad idea. I did it. I actually switched parties in the state of Michigan when I ran for the Michigan State House in 2010. I switched parties from being a conservative Democrat to a Republican around that time in 2010. However, I did it 3 years before the election. I didn't do it right before the election. I think if it's going to be done, it should be done way before they put their name on a ballot or after they leave office. That's my personal opinion. However, that's not the way it always works in the political process. There was a history of doing this in Macomb County, Michigan, where I am from. A lot of politicians back in the late 80s and 90s switched from becoming conservative Democrats to Republicans around that time and in more recent years. Canada and the US actually have a long history of this happening, although it's probably a lot more common in the United States. One of the most famous conservatives in Canada, Jean Charest, switched parties from being a conservative to joining the Quebec Liberal Party in the late 90s. I believe the Quebec Liberal Party was largely an offshoot of the Bloc Québécois Party in Quebec. It was similar, but he did do this, and he did a lot of it, I think, for marketability reasons in the late 90s. The most recent one in Canada switching parties, or one of the most recent ones in Canada switching parties, was Marilyn Gladu in the Sarnia district or the Sarnia area riding. She recently became a Liberal MP. Now, a lot of Canadians seem to think she was some far right winger and this was all wrong and blase, and they may even be right. My view on it is a little bit different. As an American, from what I've seen, she was basically a moderate on a lot of social issues, meaning she really wasn't a real conservative. She diverged on abortion, she was pro-choice, she was pro-gay rights, she was pro-vaccine, I believe she was pro-environmental spending on a lot of issues. She diverged on a lot of social issues. She really wasn't a true right-winger in my opinion. She probably fits in better with the liberals now than she ever did with the conservatives. My solution to this is basically this. Let the public vote them out of office in the next election anywhere in North America. Or let their caucus boot them out if they want of their former party in Canada. I don't agree with Pierre Poilievre on recalling them. It's confusing, it's a mess, especially for younger and very old voters. You can't have by-elections or special elections in any nation every time this ends up happening. It's costly for the people and very time-consuming and confusing. Leave it to the people in the next election. If they don't like what they did, they can vote them out of office. When parties are trying to build a majority, like the Liberals just did in Canada, things like this happen. Like I stated before, it's just politics. It's typical in politics. And yes, you're going to have people that are devious, that do this stuff, that probably shouldn't be doing it because they want power. When I switched parties, I did it for philosophical reasons. Now I consider myself an independent in the last 10 years. It's very common in politics. You just can't have special elections or by-elections every time this happens in any country when people go and floor cross or switch parties. You cannot have special elections every time that this basically ends up happening, and it's going to happen. Wait till the next election and vote them out. Once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. Please make a note that my next videos next week are going to be on the TV show DMV and why it's unfortunate that it's being canceled on CBS. I'm also going to do a review of the TV show The Paper on NBC and why I really like it as a show and why these shows are both important on TV. They're important for many political and social reasons. Once again, thank you for your time. I'll see you again next week. It's free to subscribe.